Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting record players and I'm going to be sipping on a little Moscato. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so what I'll be using for my materials today is a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. You could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, burnt umber, which I'll call brown, Mars black, ultramarine blue, and chrome orange. And of course you can switch up those colors as well, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have some fun tools. I have my standard pencil. I have about a foot worth of string. You'll see why in a minute. And then I have two brushes. I have a 1/2 inch wide flat bristle brush and I have a number 4 round synthetic brush. And throughout the painting process, I will refer to these as small and large. And of course, you could switch those up too as well if you'd like. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, I will be providing you with a couple of additional resources that can help you through your painting process. One of them is a link where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the large canvas to, you know, the fancy piece of string I'm going to use and all the stuff in between. So that's there for you. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing for the first step is I'm going to be drawing myself half of a circle. So I'm going to be using my fancy string and my pencil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my string and I'm going to make a small loop on one end of the string, like this. And then I'm going to slide my pencil in that loop so it's nice and tight along the edge, right in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to eyeball where the center of my canvas is. So you can kind of go on the top side of your canvas, find where you feel to be is about the center mark, and then do the same thing on the left or the right side where you visually feel like the center is, and then just kind of move your fingers together, and when they hit, you're right about at the center of the canvas. You can make yourself a little bit of a marker. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your string and your pencil, you're going to place your pencil near the bottom of your canvas directly below that center mark, so somewhere in through here, and then you're going to hold the string tight and firm, push it right into that center spot of your canvas. And then once you're nice and secure, what you want to do is you just move your pencil up like this, and then up like this, and you go all about as high as your hand is, so about halfway on either side. And then you can just sketch, you can take your rope off at this point, and then just sketch yourself a loose line in the middle of that canvas. It doesn't have to be perfect, just something nice and loose. And then we are going to be using our large brush for the next step. So once you've got this half of a circle done, you can put your pencil and your string away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting our background color. I'm going to be using my large brush. I'm going to be using brown, black, and white. And I'm going to be pre-mixing myself kind of a medium to light tannish gray color. So I know that I need quite a bit, and I might actually end up doing 2 layers possibly. So I'm going to use, I'm going to take a little bit of my white and just set it aside because I'm going to need a little bit of my white later, so I don't want to use all of it. And then I'm going to take the rest of my white and just add a little bit of brown and a little bit of black to it, and then just start spinning it around. I don't want it to be super duper dark. because I want my record players to really stand out, but I want to make sure that I've got enough of a contrasting color to make it look appealing in my opinion. So this is about where I'm going. It will get a little bit darker as it dries, so just when you're planning for yours, just know that it might get a little bit darker. And then when I've got the color that I want, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this entire background in. So I'm going to, this line in through here where it meets the record itself does not have to be a clean line. And even around the edges of the record in through here, they don't have to be super clean, but you definitely want to get that color all the way up to your pencil mark. When you paint the record in a little bit, we will be cleaning this line up. But just know that if you bump into it at this point, it's okay, because you'll have that opportunity to correct it or fix it when we put the coat on the actual record itself. And there is no special brush stroke to getting this background color on here. I do know that since we're using a light color like this with a lot of white in it, we will have good success getting a nice even coat throughout the whole area. So you will probably not need to do a second coat, but if you've chosen to do a different background color, you might end up doing, wanting to do a second coat. That's going to be a judgment call on your part. But what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going right up to the edge of my pencil mark, making sure that I've got it coming all the way down. And if you want to overlap the pencil a little bit, you can certainly do that. But like I said, when we go to do that full coat on the actual vinyl record itself, you'll have that opportunity to clean up any of these little edges if you need to. And then I'm going to just bring this all the way to the edge. If you wanted to, you could also paint the sides or the edges of the exterior edges of your canvas. That way it'll look nice and professionally done, and you won't feel the need to put a frame around it when after you're done painting, because it'll all be nice and finished looking for you. And you can use a good amount of paint in this step. I am trying to make it so it's a nice even coat, so I will often just kind of run my brush back and forth, so I make sure that I don't have any really thick spots or thin spots. I just want to make sure that it is pretty uniform across the entire area. So you'll notice on your canvas as you're doing it, if you see a lot of brush strokes, that might mean that it is thinner or thicker than a solid even coat. So what I do in that case is I just run my brush back and forth to thin out any spots or fill in other spots. So here you can see how this paint is drying and how much darker it is than the paint that I am putting on. So that shows you the color shift in the paint as it's drying. So you can see the evidence on my canvas right now as I'm doing this. So just know that when you're doing yours, if you wanted it a little bit lighter or darker, you can certainly adjust it with a second coat or however you want to do it, or just roll with it with whatever color it is when it ends up drying. And then we are going to be using this same large brush for the next step. So once you've got this background coat all nice and complete, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are painting the base coat on the bottom half of our record. I'm going to be using my large brush, and I'm going to be using black paint, and I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just painting it in. The only thing that I'm going to do is when I get to the sphere part of it, the arcing part of it, I will slow down so I can have as clean of a line as I can get. But if you've watched me paint before, I'm not terribly concerned about my lines being perfect. But when I get to this one up and through here, this one doesn't have to be really clean or perfect, because we're going to be painting all of our silhouettes on top of it. So don't worry about that one being fully executed perfectly or not, because again, we'll be painting over that. So now that I've got my easy center area in, I'm just going to slow down when I go to do these edges. So I am going to be, in essence, kind of pushing my brush towards that edge. And because I'm using a firm brush, this will allow me to kind of keep the bristles nice and steady and just kind of follow the line. And I have a good amount of paint on my brush as well. So I'm just going to kind of maybe stop talking for a second here. So you can either push it like this. For those of you who have painted a wall in your house, this is what you do up in the corner of the wall. You cut in to the corner of the wall. Or, so that's one method, you just kind of push it towards the corner. Or you can, if you're using a flat brush like I am, you can have a good amount of paint on your brush and you can flatten your brush like this. And if you have enough paint on your brush, you can ride it along the edge of that circle. And again, I'm doing it pretty slow, and I'm watching my edge so I can keep it as straight as my hand allows me to. I do have a shaky hand, so doing straight lines, it's fun for me, but it's challenging. So I always am bracing myself on something. So if I want to come over on this side, make sure I have enough paint on my brush, and I can just kind of ride it down along the edge. I do have a lot of paint on my brush, so this way I have I can travel this line pretty far. If I didn't have a lot of paint on my brush, it would stop and get almost like broken marks a lot, and I'd have to keep reloading my brush, which isn't bad, but when you go to reload your brush to try and get re-enter that same line, is pretty difficult. So what I'll do is I'll start back up the line a little bit so I can kind of get my rhythm and get back into it in a smooth transition so it doesn't look all bumpy. And you'll most likely have to go back over this line once you're done, just to kind of give it a nice edge, or maybe modify any little bumpy areas that you might have created. Or you might want to come back with your background color. Your background color can help you to clean up the edges on something like this if you are attempting to do a straight line, or a smooth edge, I guess is a better terminology. Like I just made a little bit of a bump there because my brush is now in my visual way as I'm coming around this corner. So I'll just have to go back and make a little correction there. But I'm just watching my edge over here. And then we are going to be utilizing our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this coat on here, and of course you can fiddle with your edges all you want to, but once you've got it all nice and in control, I'm just kind of making sure I don't have any really thick spots throughout my black, and then I will be putting my large brush away, taking out my small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting our silhouette for our singer. So I'm going to have my singer in the center of my record, and I'm going to be using my small brush. I'm going to be using black paint only. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to just guide you through a couple of basic shapes, and then we'll build off of those shapes to get what I'm going to be calling a female singer, but you can certainly make yours into any gender that you would like. You could put a hat on yours. I'm putting long hair on mine. You could put, whatever you liked to make it into your dreamy singer. I'm going to have mine in the center, like I said. She's going to occupy a lot of the height of the record. I've got her hand coming up and through here. Her head is going to be in through this direction. When I'm doing these silhouettes, I am consciously making sure that I keep the entire silhouettes within what would have been the whole record. So I know that you know, I can't have them any wider than this, and it would be in essence kind of curved. So I don't want to stick somebody's arm way out here. I want to keep it as if we cut those silhouettes right out of the vinyl record itself. So, or if they emerged, because, you know, they're record players. So I'm going to use my small brush. I'm using black paint, and I'm going to water down a little bit of my black paint so that way it's like an ink consistency. So I have nice fluid brush strokes as I go to do this, and I will have a nice pointy brush, because what I do with it is I take it and I spin it on the side of my palette, which makes it nice and pointy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple of markers, and we'll make our shapes, and then we'll go from there. So you'll find kind of the center point of your record, and come up from that maybe about 2 inches, and you're going to make a horizontal line that is about 1 inch wide. So somewhere in through this vicinity will get you in the width that you need to go. Then I'm going to go straight up from the center of that, and I'm going to stop maybe about 2.5 inches from the top of my canvas. This is going to be the top of her head. So what I'm going to do is I am making myself a arcing line at the top like this, and I'm going to bring it down on the sides in just a straight line down to the corner of that horizontal line that we started with. So I'm bringing it just straight down in through here, and then I'm just going to color this whole section in with black paint. So it's really kind of a long rectangle with a rounded top is how I've got it started. And then what I'm going to do, once I've got this section in through here, I'm going to create her waist and the bottom part of her dress. So what I'm going to do on this left hand side is I'm just going to bring this in a little bit at a bit of an angle for about, I don't know, maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and then I just kind of curve it back to the left and give it a little bit of a wave. This is going to insinuate that it is the side of her dress on that side. And then what I'm going to do, I think I want this to be a little bit more of a gradual, where this is like the side of her body here, and this comes into her waist. So just making it a little bit more gradual. And then on the right hand side, this is in essence her front, or her belly part, I guess would be a good way to describe it. So I'm just going to take this almost straight down from here, and then just kind of bring it out just a little bit in through here. This is going to be the front part of her dress, and then I'm just going to color this all in. It'll make a lot of sense in a minute when when I have the rest of the pieces in place. And of course, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. This is just a fun interpretation of a silhouette of a woman singing. So now that I've got that in through there, I want to put the rest of her head on. So I'm going to come, I would say maybe about 1.5 inches down from the top of her head. So somewhere in this vicinity in through here, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a, we'll call it a chin, somewhere in through here. So just a little bit of a curving line in through there. And then what I can do is I can take from the top part and just kind of extend that to about the same distance that I just did on the bottom, maybe a little bit further, and then just bring it in like this. So I've in essence kind of just created a little bit of an oval, a flatter spot on the top of her head, a little bit of a oval type shape to account for her chin. I'm going to now give her, we'll call it bangs, or like a little bump where her bangs would be, the front part of her hair. So I'm just going to bump that out just a little bit in through there. And you could put little eyelashes, or if you wanted to, you could stick a couple of little eyelashes in through here, but I'm not really doing much because I'm going to have her microphone is going to be coming out of there in a second. So I'm going to come down from her chin, maybe about I would say a 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and I'm going to give this right shoulder, and it's going to come out just a tiny bit more than her chin. So just a tiny bit more than the chin, and then I'm going to bring this down to about this area in through here. It's going to be a little bit above the waist. So it'll be about where we had the bottom part of the of that rectangle. And this is going to, in essence, be her shoulder, and then it's going to go into her womanly chest. So something like that. And of course, you can have yours whatever shape you would like. So that's her shoulder, and then her woman parts, her boobie, that's her boobie. And then I'm going to put her arm on. So her arm is going to come from her shoulder. Her elbow is going to be just below her chest area. So I'm going to just bring this in through here. I'm coming down at a diagonal. It's going to lift away right before the part that bumps out the most. And I'm going to give her a little bit of an elbow in through here, coming down just a little bit more. And I think I want this just to be just a little bit wider to make sure that it doesn't look too narrow. That works for me. And then the other part of her arm is her forearm, and it's going to be coming right up towards her mouth. So the microphone is going to be coming out here. So really, I'm going to have her wrist is going to be in through here with her forearm. This is the other side of her arm. And I'm actually going to bring this a little bit wider in through here. And then her hand is going to be right by her mouth. It can even kind of touch her mouth and give a little bit of her knuckles, I guess, would be a great thing to call them. Color that in like that. And then I'm going to put the microphone on. So the microphone can come, it can just join the mouth. It doesn't have to be anything more disconnected than that. And I'm going to put it out at a diagonal, coming out from her hand. And if you can get it to go a little bit skinnier as it goes towards the end, that's great. And if you need, you know, to widen anything, if you feel like her hand needs to be wider, or there needs to be a little electrical part on the end of the microphone, feel free to make it into whatever way you want. And then I'm going to put a squiggly line coming down from the end of my microphone down towards the ground. Now I need to put her hair and her other arm coming off the other side. So if this is her shoulder on the right side, directly to the left of that is going to be the shoulder, or this shoulder on the right side, the left side is going to be directly over from that. I'm going to really just from that shoulder spot, I'm going to give myself a diagonal line to create this arm, and I'm going to make it pretty darn narrow. It's going to have a little bit of a scoop up at the top to show like her hand is really just reaching for the stars, I guess. But I'm going to just kind of start it with a diagonal line. So I'm going to go somewhere in through, I would say in through here, just give myself a diagonal line. And then I feel like her wrist would be, you know, we're closing in on close to where her wrist would be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give it a little bit of an arc where I want her fingers to be, and just kind of bring this back towards her wrist. And now I can start kind of shaping it. So I know that her elbow per se would be kind of about mid-head. So that's where I'm going to start making it a little bit wider as it gets towards the body. So something like this is going to make it wider as it gets towards the body, and I can just bring that down in through there. I can bring this a little bit wider as it meets her shoulder, and then I've got to make her forearm a little bit wider. So figure out where I want the wrist to go. So I think the wrist is going to be right about here. So what I can do is as I'm coming down the forearm, I can just push my brush a little bit harder, and that's going to make it a little bit wider. And I just do it a little bit at a time because I can always make it bigger, but it's really difficult to make it smaller once it's on there. I just need to reload my brush. I don't feel like my lines are smooth enough right now, so I just kind of reloaded my brush, trying to keep my hand out of your way. And if you ever do anything, you're like, oh, that just didn't work out. You know, you think that maybe it needs to be, you made it too wide or whatever the case may be, you can always let it dry, come back with your background color, and then make it, you can slim out any lines. So I'm going to give her a little bit of a a hand in through here. I've got her thumb. I'm just bringing this into here, give her a little bit of the bottom part of her hand in through here, and then I'll give her a little bit of a thickness part where her fingers would bump out a little bit in through here, trying to keep my hand out of your way. So something like this. And again, you can keep manipulating this whatever way you feel would look the best, but it doesn't have to be, again, photorealistic. This is just something to give the impression that we've got a wonderful singer and she's just kind of pointing her finger up into the air. And then I just have a couple of long pieces of hair that I want to put on the back side of her, somewhere in through here. So I am just using my brush with the tip of it. I'm adding some extra pieces of little hair coming out, extending past where I had that original line. So this is going to make it look like it's got some volume on it. And you can make her hair as large as you want, as curly as you want, as straight as you want. You could put a hat on her. You could really have a whole bunch of fun with this. And I'm going to make sure that there's enough back here so it ends up looking like this is her hair and this is her waist and through here. And again, if you need to modify anything to make it look more the way that you want it to, feel free to do so. And then we are going to be utilizing this same brush for the next step. So once you've got her in the shape that you would like her to be, you can wash, well, you don't even have to wash it. We're going to be using the same color. So you can just kind of take a break and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm painting the silhouette for my guitar player. I'm going to be using a small brush and I'm going to be using black paint with some water, just like I did on my singer. So I'm going to have my guitar player a little bit to the right, and it's going to be taller than her. And as you're doing yours, if you're choosing to do different silhouettes and you want kind of a good balance throughout it, just kind of plan for it. So I'm going to have 5 figures. So she's in the middle, I'll have 2 in through here, and then I'm going to have 2 on my end. So I'm just trying to give it good balance. I don't want this one to be too far over and not have enough room for my other one. And again, while I'm doing it, I know that I need to, again, keep it within the profile of what the record would have been. So we're going to do the same kind of process where I'll give you a couple of markers and we'll connect those and paint in a couple of shapes, and we should be good after that. So I am going to come in from the edge of my record, I would say about 3 inches, make myself a little bit of a marker, and then maybe about another 2 inches to the left. You might want to shift yours a little bit if you made your singer larger or smaller, but this is about where I'm having mine. Then I'm going to come directly up from the center of those 2 marks, and I'm going to come up about halfway into the height of her head, or somewhere in this vicinity, maybe the lower part of her head. And now I'm going to create myself another one of those long rectangle oval type shapes. So I'm going to go something like this, and then just bring this down into my area down at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing over on the other side. I think I want this to come just a little bit closer to this, to her microphone cord, something like this. And it's cloth, or we're painting silhouettes of people who are wearing clothes. So the clothes has wrinkles and bumps and stuff on it. So if yours isn't perfectly straight, that's okay. We're just kind of giving ourselves some shapes that we can work from. And then I just kind of round this one up at the top as well. And then I'm just going to take my black paint and paint this whole section in. Oops, that one grew a little bit. Okay, my brush got a little away from me there. We'll just make that shoulder a little bit bigger than I had anticipated. No big deal. And then I'll just kind of paint in. Our people can grow if we need them to. And then once I've got this section painted in, I'm going to paint a circle type oval shape for the head. So I've got my black paint on my brush. I'm going to come above this shape, maybe about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. That's going to be the top of my head. My head is going to be maybe about 1 inch wide. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of an oval that gets a little more narrow at the neck. So something like that. And I'm going to do the same thing over on the other side. And again, your head shape does not have to be exactly as mine. Everybody has a different shape to their head based on their haircut, based on their ears, based on their, you know, head size. It's all relative to whatever you want your person to look like. So if you want yours to have a larger head, make it have a larger head. If you want it to have a wide neck, make it have a wide neck. So it's really all up to you, but this is about the size that I'm going for on mine. And then what I'm going to do is I am putting my guitar silhouette in. So I'm having my guitar come out from the corner of the shoulder, and it's going to come at a diagonal, and it's going to be about the same height as the head. So I'm going to say something like this. And then I'm going to do an imaginary line to kind of down in this vicinity. And this is going to be where the base of the guitar is. So that's like the center of it. So I guess I could kind of do something like this. And then I'm going to do just another kind of bump in through there. And again, yours, maybe this should be a little bit further. This side should be a little bit further down. There we go. And yours again can be whatever shape. Maybe you own a different kind of guitar and you want yours to be of a little bit different shape. Totally up to you. At the top of the guitar, I'm going to create this triangle, like kind of a side triangle type of rounded shape like this. You're going to have to forgive me as I go through this painting because I don't know the parts of the instruments. So I'm just going with what I know what they look like, not as what the correct terminology is. So sorry if I am not saying the correct terminologies on these things, but once I've done that, I'm going to put these, I think these are like tuner knobs. I don't know if that's the correct name for them, but I know that they loosen and tighten the strings on the guitar. So those are going to go in through here with a couple of little knobs on the ends, something like this. My son plays the guitar, so he will probably swiftly correct me on my terminology for the guitar. I'm going to widen the neck of the guitar as it reaches that shoulder, so it looks a little bit more like it's got more volume to it. So I just push my brush to get it a little bit wider. Now I'm going to put his arm on. So I think the arm on this side, I'm going to have the elbow is going to come where I'm going to perceive to be his waist. So I'm going to have it coming out in through here. So I'm really just going to kind of make myself a little bit of a V type of shape with a soft bottom to it. And then I'm going to bring this side of the arm in through here. I think I need to widen this arm just to come out of that shoulder just a little bit more on this side to give the back, we're really giving the back side of the arm right in through here. And then I'm going to put the forearm in the front side of the arm. So that's going to be in through here with a wrist. And this is going to maybe bump out a little bit in the bottom part of that forearm. Something like that. And then I've got the hand that needs to connect to the guitar. So I'm going to have that connecting in through here with a little bit of a bent wrist to, you know, like he's really playing the guitar, something like this. And then the fingers, we've got the whole hand in through here. And then I'm going to just kind of, maybe I'll close it off in through, I would say maybe right about here. So again, you could certainly reshape yours whatever way you felt was necessary. Maybe yours needs to be a little, I think this needs to be a little bit wider in through here. Give him a little bit more meat on the forearm. There we go. And then I've got I think I just want to widen this shoulder. So the shoulders can be wider than the base of the body in through here. So if you feel that you need to widen, like I feel like I should widen this left shoulder a little bit to be a little bit further out than the base of the body, you can certainly go ahead and do that. And then you just need if you have any spots that need to be fully painted with your black. If you didn't get good coverage, you can go ahead and do that. And then we're going to use the same brush for the next step with black paint, so you can just get ready. All right, so what I'm doing for the next step is I'm going to be doing the silhouette for my flute player. So I'm going to have her over in this vicinity. I'm using my small brush and I'm using my watered down black paint to get it on here. So again, we're going to do the same kind of exercise where I'll give you a couple of markers and shapes, and by the time we're done, we'll magically have a silhouette of a flute player. So I'm going to come in from the edge of my record to the left, maybe about an inch, make myself a mark. Then come about another inch, make myself another mark. I'm going to come directly up from the center of those, make myself a mark in through here. So this is about a little over 2 inches, maybe about 2.25 inches, and it's about, if relative to where I have my guitar player, somewhere in through this area of his arm. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a rectangle. You don't need to make round edges on this one, so just kind of bring your lines down in through there and then just across the top. Doesn't have to be the rounded edges, because we're going to be rounding them in a second with different shapes. So I've got that in through there. I'm going to, before I move on to the head, I'm going to create a little bit of shape down at the bottom of her. So I'm just going to come in through here and just kind of curve this over and make it meet the bottom of this record player. Oh, you know what? I'm traveling to the left for a second. Oops, I want to do that to this guy here too. I probably should have done that earlier, and over here, just so you can close off these corners so it's not a jagged line. So back to the flute player. Now I'm going to come and I'm going to give her a little bit of, I don't want to call it a belly, but maybe a hip on this right hand side. So just a gradual kind of marking somewhere in through here. I didn't do it very much, just a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and make a shape for her head. So I want her head to be about an inch tall from this rectangle that we just did, but I'm going to tip it to the side. I'm going to do an oval and I'm going to tip it to the side so it looks like her head is tilted for playing her instrument. So I'm going to come up from this left hand corner and go maybe up about an inch or so, and then I'm going to, when I do this oval, it's going to overhang this back area a little bit. So I'm going to bring it out in this direction, and then on the front portion of it, I'm going to have it tipped like this. And it's not going to go farther than this corner of her, what's going to be her shoulder. So something like this, and then just bring it down in this vicinity. So make sure it connects to your rectangle, so that way you don't have a bobbly disconnected head. So something like that. And then I'm going to put a little bun on the top left of her head. Of course, you can have your hair whatever way you would like to, but that's what I'm going to do for my flute player. She's going to have a bun on the top of her head. I'm going to give her some bangs or a little puffy part in the front part of her head, something like that. And again, you could create yours whatever way that you want. I'm going to put the flute on now. So the flute is going to go from the bottom portion of her face, and I'm going to cross it over this corner here, and I'm bringing it slightly diagonal down into this vicinity. So I'm going to bring it probably close to his elbow, but I'm going to start at her mouth, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of, I would say maybe about a half of an inch coming out in through here, something like that, and it can connect to that neck. We're just seeing the side of it, and then it's going to cross over this shoulder in through here, and it's going to come out this side over here. And I'm just slowing down a little bit to make sure that I have it in the length that I want. So I've got mine coming out, I would say maybe about 2 inches past that corner. And flutes, some flutes have different thicknesses to them. There's fifes and flutes and different kind of wind instruments that are long like this, so you could make yours as thin or as wide as you feel necessary. I'm going to put a shoulder on this right hand side. So again, the elbow of sorts is going to come about halfway down where her waist would kind of be. So I'm just going to kind of bump this out a little bit in through here. I'm going to give her a little shoulder in through here, and then the side of her arm comes down like this. So when you're doing something like this, the more little kind of movement you can give it, the more it will look a little bit more natural. If you do a straight line, it won't look as natural. So I need to give her a shoulder of sorts on this left-hand side as well, so it's not cut off. So I'm going to go about the same distance out that I did on the right-hand side, and then just kind of gradually bring this down to the body. So something like this. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but something just gives her, that'll give her a little bit of movement. I've got to give her her arm in through here too. So her arm is going to come off of her shoulder, and it's going to come down in a diagonal kind of way. I've got the elbow is going to come down at about that distance, maybe a little bit further on this side. Maybe she's leaned over a little bit to give herself a bit of a good wind for her to blow her instrument. She needs her hand to connect to the instrument. So something like this. And you might end up making adjustments to make it look right to you. She's got some fingers there. She's got the rest of her hand kind of holding on to the instrument. She's got her wrist. I think I need to make her elbow a little bit bigger. But again, I'd rather have to make it bigger than have to do the challenge of making it smaller. So I'm just going to kind of keep building it until I feel like it's big enough, and that's looking pretty good to me. And then I just need her little fingers. I'm going to put the fingers of the right arm on this shoulder over here on the flute. So I'm just doing a couple little bumps up here. Just gives you the impression, well, that was a little bit bigger than I wanted, but that's okay. Gives you the impression that her other hand is in fact over there. And then you can do any little tweaks that you want to. And then we're going to use this same brush for the let's make sure that we've closed this little gap off here. So we'll use the same brush for the next step, so you can just take a break and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting ourselves a saxophone player. So the silhouette of one. I'm going to use my small brush, and I'm going to be using black paint, and we're just going to kind of repeat the type of exercise that we did for our other three silhouettes. So I'm going to load my brush with a little bit of watered down black paint, and I'm going to give you a couple of markers. So I'm going to do 2 markers down here. This is maybe about 3.5 inches away from the edge of my record, and it's maybe about 1.5 inches wide. My saxophone player is going to be kind of tipped back, so he's playing the saxophone kind of up in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight up from the center of here to right about here. So it's kind of almost like at the armpit of my woman, or of my singer in through here. So right about here. And then I'm going to go to the right of this one, maybe about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, and come up, but not quite as far as this one. So maybe somewhere in through here. That's going to be the top part of my rounded rectangle shape that I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of connect these two in through here like this, and then just curve along the shoulder, and then just bring this down to this marker in through here. And then I'm going to bring this one down in a little curved line in through here. And when I do this back one, you can give it a little bit of a curve inward if you wanted to, something like that. And then I'll just kick out a little bit at the bottom for the bottom of his shirt, like that. And then I'm just going to color this in. The front portion of the saxophone player's shirt in through here is probably going to be covered by part of your piano, so we're not really going to do anything down in this bottom corner, the bottom left corner, because it'll be covered by the piano cover. It's going to be covered by the cover of the piano. So you don't have to do anything into there. So I'm going to put my head on. My head is going to be leaning back. So I'm going to have, it's going to be about an inch wide or across and tall. So I'm going to start it somewhere in through here. And then I'm just going to kind of build it like this. It's going to kind of look like it's going into the armpit of my sinker, but that's okay because, you know, that's the direction I want it to go to. And it's only going to go about half, you know, a little bit like in this direction. And I'm just making a circle to start, and then I will show you how to build it into something much fancier than a circle. So now that I've got the circle in through there, I'm going to give my saxophone player a neck. So I'm going to go in through this direction like that. And then this one over here is going to be more of like a diagonal kind of curved line. Like this is the front of his, well, it could be a her, I guess, the front of that person's neck. And then I'm going to give them a nose and a mouth, so, and a chin. So the mouth and chin are kind of blowing the saxophone. So first I'm going to just give myself a little bit of a nose about halfway down the head. So I'm just kind of poking out a little triangle in through there. And then the mouth, I'm just going to kind of connect like it's blowing. So I need a chin in through here. It's going to come up at a little bit of an angle. And then you could even be seeing part of the reed of the instrument coming out of the mouth. So it can look a little distorted. I think I'm going to move my nose a little bit higher so I could just put it up in through there. Yeah, that looks better. And then my reed of my saxophone is going to come out in through here. So that's how I'm going to start that in through there. And I'll show you how I'm going to connect it to the instrument in a second. So the bottom farthest part of the instrument I'm going to have in this vicinity over here. So if you kind of come to the left of your body, maybe about an inch down from the shoulder, and to the left maybe about an inch and a half, that'll put you in the vicinity of where I have that bottom part of my instrument. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a diagonal line for the main part of the instrument in through here, and then I'm going to kind of give it a little like S type shape to meet the mouth, and I'll also give it a big hook to come where the opening part of the air horn part of the saxophone is at the end. So I'm going to start with a diagonal line. I'm going to end this diagonal line so you have a starting point and an ending point about the same height as the head in this type of diagonal line. So, and it's maybe about an inch, inch and a half away from the head, so maybe somewhere in through there. And then I'm just going to give myself a diagonal line to start this. So something like that. And if it ends up skinnier or wider on one end, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the mouth, or to this piece that's coming out of the mouth. Oops, I just got wet paint there. That's okay. That's where my piano cover is going to go. So I'm going to go like this up and then just kind of connect it. Let me just reload my brush so I can get this to connect in through here. And I'm just using the tip of my brush. And if you wanted to use a smaller brush, you certainly could, but I like to kind of clink around with the same kind of brush throughout the painting. It makes my life easier, and I like these type of brushes. So then what I'm going to do is, now that I've got that in through there, I'm going to give myself the horn part. So the horn part I'm going to have, it's going to be about the same height as the head in through here. So it's going to be somewhere in this vicinity. I'll make it a little bit on the diagonal way like that. And then it's going to connect down into this area in through here. And now I'm just going to kind of widen all of these lines the way that I feel that they should be. So the horn, I feel, would be widest at the end portion of it, and then it'll get a little bit more narrow as it comes down and hooks around in through here. And then the actual longest part of the horn, I think, has some Here goes my really smart talk. It's some pieces of the instrument that you're going to move with your hands that are going to make the different notes. So some keys. I think that would be the right words. So I'm going to just make this part a little bit thicker in through here. And then I'm going to just, with the tip of my brush, I'm going to make maybe like a single line and then maybe a couple of little vertical and horizontal lines going in through there. I'm sure that they are not accurate 100%, but they are going to make my painterly eye happy, and we're just going to give the insinuation or the impression of the different keys and things that happen on the side of the instrument. I think there's even, wait a minute, I know this one, a spit valve down at the bottom of the instrument in through here. So I'm going to put a little kind of mark down in through here that will give you the impression that there's a valve of sorts down there. Now I got to put the arms on. So I want my arms obviously to meet my instrument in a place that looks normal to me. So I'm going to start somewhere in through here, just make myself a diagonal line to meet the body. This to me would be around where the elbow is. And then I'm going to do another one for the other arm somewhere in this direction. And then I'm just going to kind of widen them and give them maybe some sleeves. So maybe I'll put a little sleeve in through here and then just kind of widen this arm. And then I'll do the same thing for this one, give the end of the sleeve and then kind of widen this arm in through here. And then I'll put a couple of little bumps for where the hands would be. So if this is the wrist in through here, I'll have maybe a little wider part in through here to show that hand. And then I'll do the same thing over here. If this is the wrist, that already looks wide enough for me. So I'll just put a little bump in through there that'll indicate the bottom part of the hand. And then I think that's it. Maybe a little bump in through here where the mouthpiece connects. And if you feel that you know any other pieces of the saxophone that you'd like to include on yours, feel free to do so. We're going to use that small brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting our silhouette for the piano man. So I'm going to be using my small brush, and of course I'm using watered down black paint. So I'm loading my brush. I'm going to have him over here on the left hand side, or her, whatever gender you'd like yours to be. So I've got the edge of my record is going to be one marker. I'm coming in maybe about, I would say maybe an inch, inch and a half for the front part of them. And then I'm coming up about almost 2 inches for the top part of this. So this is going to be much more of a rounded look than when we did these other ones, because we're looking at the profile. So we're looking at the back and then the chest. So I've got my my marker in through here, and I'm going to just kind of take this and give it a little bit of a line there, and I should say more of like a dome as opposed to like a soft rectangle. So something like this, and it just kind of gradually kind of goes into this mark in through here. And then I'm going to color this in with my black paint. And when I'm coloring in these main sections, I'm using more of my non-watered down black paint. I use the thinned out paint when I'm drawing the edges or the lines of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my head on. So my head is going to be looking down at the piano keys. So I'm going to be doing my circle / oval head is going to be in this vicinity, and it's going to touch kind of the front corner of that first shape that I did. And it's going to be, again, maybe about an inch tall, maybe about almost an inch wide, somewhere in this vicinity. And then I'm going to shape it so it looks more like a head. So maybe I make it a little bit more square type in the back. So it's almost like you're seeing his hairline or the back, you know, whatever the back shape is. I'll put the neck on in through there so the neck connects to the back, something like that. And then I need to make some facial features or the illusion of facial features. So I'm going to have a little bit of a chin, a nose, and maybe a little bit of a forehead. So I'm going to start with my nose, which is going to be about halfway down my circle. And I'm just bringing out a little kind of triangle. It doesn't need to be much. You can make your nose as big or as small as you want. I'm just going to make mine on the smaller side, and then I'm going to put a little bit of a chin somewhere in through here, and it could have a beard, it could be, you know, whatever you would like it to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and put just a tiny bit of a forehead. So my forehead is going to be in through here, and it could be like a forehead slash bangs or whatever you'd like it to be. You can certainly make it into whatever you'd like it to be. And then once you've got that on there, I'm going to go ahead and make my piano. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to just do a couple of like stair step type of marks in through here. So I'm going to go up just about 1/4 of an inch, over maybe about an inch, up another 1/4 of an inch, and then over to this body and just color this in through here. I'm going to put another little mark on the top of this area in through here, just bringing this out just a little bit to give it the illusion of that piece of the piano that covers the keys. And then I'm going to put the piano top part on, the part that would kind of lay down. So I'm going to do from about here, maybe just a little bit away from my saxophone player, I'm going to do a diagonal line that's going to go up past my my person's head, my piano player's head. So I'm going to go maybe somewhere in through here, trying to keep my hand out of your way, and just make myself a diagonal line in through here. And then I'm going to do whatever shape that I want for that, for the other side. So I'm going to just kind of do like a wavy type of look. I think maybe I want this to be up just a little bit more, something like that. And then I'm just going to bring this out. It can touch your saxophone because it could certainly be on the other side and something like that. And then I'm just going to color this in. And again, you could have yours as big or as small as you want in whatever kind of shape that you want to. And then, let me see, do I want that? I think I want that a little bit wider. So I'm going to go for it being just a touch wider in through here. Yeah, I like that better. And then we are actually going to be using our pencil and our string for the next step. So you can do, and oh, I think I need a little line here. Hold on a second. I need something to hold up my my lid, so I need a vertical line in through here too. So once you get this line done, we need something to hold it up, right? There you go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my small brush away. I will take out my pencil and my string, and of course you can do any little modifications that you want. Make sure these are as clean as you want them to be, and then just get ready for the next step. All right, so for the next step, we're going to be outlining the label on the center of the record. So I do recommend before you do this that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So, you know, you could either take that extra long break if you like to, or you can fan it with whatever you'd like, some paper towel, or you're blowing on it, or you could do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and blow dry it that way. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to be using my string and my pencil. However, so you can see it on camera, I've switched to a white pencil, but you can just continue to use your regular pencil. I've tied my string to my pencil as we did earlier. I'm going to find the center of my canvas or the center of my record, and I want my label to almost look like a dress on my singer. So I'm actually going to push my pencil to about the height that I want it on her dress, so somewhere in through here, and then I'm going to pull that string and push my finger in where the center of the canvas is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my outline, just holding them together like this. I think I'm gonna have to turn this way now so I can do it so you guys can see it. So again, just kind of getting my center point, finding how high I want it to go, and I will be probably, I'm skipping the gray area. And I might not get it perfect, but I'll get something close enough so I can work with coloring it in. So something like that, that works for me. And then we are going to be using our large brush for the next step. So once you've got your circle and you do any little modifications that you want, you can put your pencil and your string away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we are painting the vinyl part and the base coat to the label. We're gonna be using our large brush. The colors I'm using are orange, and then I'll be using blue, black, and white for the vinyl part. So I'm gonna load my brush with orange paint, and I'm gonna be painting this interior part. I'm gonna bring it right up to the edge of my pencil mark. I am going for a nice kind of loose look on this with some light streaks and some dark streaks. So I'm doing it in this kind of circular manner in through this bottom area. And then when I go to do it on what I'm going to call my singer's dress, I will be using more of like a little rubbing kind of technique. So with this paint, because it is translucent and we are doing it on a black surface, you are going to have areas as it dries that are going to be lighter and dark. Some areas are going to be lighter than others and some are going to be darker than others because it will be the brightest where the paint is the thickest. So as it's drying, I'm just doing her dress, I'm not going to do her arm. As it's drying, you may find that you want to add more to some areas in order to get it to be a little bit brighter. Like if I wanted to give the illusion of her chest being three-dimensional, I could put more orange paint in through there and then less in through her waist, and that would make her chest almost look like it pops out. So you could almost play with it being three-dimensional. If you wanted to give that type of illusion, you could certainly play with the thickness and thinness of the paint. So once I've got this whole label area painted, I'm going to wash and dry my brush and reload it with my colors that I'm going to be doing for the vinyl portion of it. So I'm just washing and drying my brush. I'm going to be using black and white and blue. So the blue is going to give you more of like a metallic look to it. So when I do this, I'm never going to have a ton of paint on my brush, and I'm going to be kind of scraping it in the direction of the circle. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of white, a tiny bit of black, and a tiny bit of blue. And you can always kind of add or subtract based on, if you put too much on there, bring back some black. If you put too little on there, add some more white. So you can really play with it. I'm going to have a shinier area in through here, so that's going to be where my brightest area is going to go. And all the while, I'm going to be going pretty fast. So when I go fast, I'm watching the outside circle to make sure that my hand goes in the same type of circle all the way from the, from the label all the way to the edge of the canvas or the edge of the record. Right now my brush has very little paint on it. I'm even bringing it up into the silhouettes just to make sure that it represents the entire record. If you wanted to, you could certainly bring it up into the top ones, but I'm just bringing it to these ones down by on the ends where I've got more hitting that main part of the record. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more maybe blue onto my brush to get this area in through here a little bit shinier, and in a second I will add even more white to it. So this is just going to give it again that almost shiny metallic kind of look. I know that records aren't typically metallic in nature, but they are very shiny. That vinyl is very shiny. So I just added some white to my brush. And again, as you're doing this, if you feel, oh my God, I added too much, don't worry about it. You can always come back with a little bit of black to dull it down a bit, but these bits of white are really going to make it look that extra bit of shiny. And I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit more to give it these little real pops of the brightness. And I might end up coming back with a little bit of black just around this label to make sure that my pencil is not showing. And to me, records have almost these grooves in them from where one song goes to the next. So that's why I'm almost kind of staggering these a bit, but you can certainly have as much fun with it as you'd like. And then we are going to be utilizing this same brush for the next step. So once you've got all of your shine on your vinyl record, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm painting myself an abstract border around the canvas. I'm going to be using my large brush, and I'm going to be using black and orange paint, but you could certainly use whatever colors you want. I just want something kind of complimentary, something with a little mood in it, maybe some smokiness to it, so that's where I'm going. So I'm going to put very little bit of black paint and very little bit of orange paint on my brush at the same time. I'm not pre-mixing them, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be rubbing it around the edges. So I've got it maybe a little bit darker in the corners, and then I'm just kind of letting my brush really almost drag along the edges of the canvas to give it this bit of like a smoky haze kind of look around the edges. And you can, again, be as intense with yours or as soft as you want with yours. I'm going to go ahead and do this bottom left corner. So I'm starting heavy in the corners, and then I just kind of dry brush it out and let myself almost run out of paint as it's going towards that interior of the painting. And because I'm using a bristle brush, it really helps to just kind of not necessarily blend the paint in with the neighboring areas, but definitely continues to allow me to move that paint around so I can get it to spread as much as I want to. And then I'm doing the same thing, just putting it in that corner, letting it kind of come all the way along the edge so I have a full border around the painting. And again, you could, I'm just using the orange and black because it's going to complement the interior of the painting, but you could certainly, if you're going to be using a different color on your label, you could certainly do that particular color combination for your border, whatever works for you. I like the darkness of this, maybe a touch more black here. That edge was a little orange for me, so maybe a little bit more, like I said, you can do it in whatever color that you would like. Again, I'm just kind of letting my brush run out of paint, which is allowing it to just kind of trail into and give this nice kind of an atmospheric border around it. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this cool out of focus abstract kind of border going on here, you can put your large brush away wherever you'd like, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is a super fun customizable step. We're writing the words on our label and finishing our label in whatever way you'd like. So what I'm going to do is I'm using my small brush. I'm going to use a few different colors. One of them is my background color because I have to put the hole in my record because it wouldn't, spin on the player without a hole in it. So I'll put the hole in there, and then maybe I'll do some fun decorative edge details, and then I'm going to write some words on my record label. So I'm just going to take my original background color, find my center spot, and just do a small circle, or one that you feel looks like it is appropriately sized for your record. Maybe you did a bigger record or a smaller record than I did. So I'm just going to use my background color so it looks like we are seeing right through it. And of course you can, you know, work on your perfect small little circle for as long as you want to. And then what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to just use this color and maybe a little bit of white, and I'm going to water it down. I just dipped my brush in water because I want to add a little bit of kind of an outline along my my label. So I'm just using some thinned out paint just to make sure that I have it kind of nice and fluid, so I can have a good line to do. So I've got this, and I'm just kind of going right along the edge. I'm going to be doing some, you know, loose, fun edging and words in a second, but I just want to kind of make sure that my edge looks as clean as I want it to. And again, I have a shaky hand, so I am resting my hand on my canvas as I do this, and this is just helping me to kind of clean up my edges. And then once I have that on there, I'm going to start writing some words. So I am going to be using white paint to do my words just so they stand out a little bit more. And I'm just going to have fun with this because I'm a 80s chick, and my favorite kind of music, well, one of my favorite kind of music is when I, you know, from when I was in high school, which is in the 80s. So I'm going for 80s bands on my record label. So I'm just going to, I loaded my brush with some white paint, and I'm just going to kind of write 80s bands on the bottom here, so something like this. And again, this is one of those steps that you can really just have as much fun with as you want to. If you wanted to you know, customize it to a real label that is your favorite record of all time, you could certainly look up the details of how that label looked, and you can emulate it. That'd be a super cool thing to do. And you could, I have to slow down on my spelling so I don't misspell anything here. You can certainly customize this whatever way that you want. And of course you can see that I'm going all the way up the side. This is going to look really cool because it's at an angle, or seeing that part from an angle. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm, you know, just going to pick a couple of bands from my time. So one of them is Journey. So I think I'm going to put my smaller one up at the top. I've got a couple here. I think I'm going to do Kiss is going to be one of them. We'll put this one up here. And I am not pressing hard when I do these letters, so that way they stay kind of on the more narrow side. I've got Poison is one of the bands I'm going to put here. So again, I'm really concentrating on not spelling these names wrong. And when I do these little letterings, I really like to just kind of use my own penmanship. That way I don't struggle with trying to make them look like somebody else's. I think I'm going to have ZZ Top is going to be one of them. So I think I can fit this in here. ZZ and then Top. And then I've got Journey is going to be, because Journey's one of my all-time favorite bands. So we got to have Journey represented on here somewhere. So I'm going to put it here. And again, you could certainly do bands, you could do names of songs, you could really have as much fun with this as you want to. And then we have one more step to go, and it's going to be with this small brush. Oh, wait. Nope, don't go anywhere. I want to put a little black outline around my hole here. I just picked up I washed and dried my brush and picked up some black paint, just so there's a little bit more detail in this center. And of course, you can certainly do whatever you want. You could pick up more of the orange, you could pick up more of the white, whatever you want to decorate this in whatever way you want. So once you have your label all decorated the way that you want to, then we will go on to that final step, and it's going to be with this small brush. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I'm going to use my small brush. I am using black paint. I'm going to sign mine in the bottom left corner. I do mine with my initials, but you could certainly do yours with your first name or with the date or a symbol or whatever you'd like for your identifying mark to be. It's your painting. You sign it however you would like to. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a really musical image, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.